speaker tonight. He will show us how a home or building inspection can increase your return on investment exponentially. Whether a single family home, a multi-unit building, or a commercial space, a thorough inspection can help prevent very costly surprises that can sometimes destroy your bottom line. Having more than 40 years of experience inspecting commercial and residential construction, remodeling, and maintenance, he currently has been with BPG for the past 6 years. Not too surprising, he went to Washington University, which is located here in St. Louis, for mechanical engineering. Please give a warm welcome to our special guest, long-term STLREIA supporter, Pete Klarmann.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Glad you came out, during this horrible blizzard we had. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about doing inspections. As she told you, I am with BPG. That's the company I work for right now. I've been with them for about 6 years. It's an excellent company. I do residential and commercial inspections. In the St. Louis or Missouri area, I do both residential and commercial. I don't do residential in Illinois, but I do commercial in Illinois. So let me kind of just jump into this a little bit. What I want you to think about. Oop, a little too fast there. Hold on. So, how a home inspection report can assist you in negotiations. How a thorough residential commercial inspection can help uncover potentially costly problems, as well as assess problems that appear to be a big issue that often are not. That's something I run into more often than you would expect. Somebody will think they have a huge problem in a property, and with the right eyes looking at it, you can go, okay, it's an issue, but here's the cost, here's we can take care of it, not a big deal. So very often I've helped investors stay with a property that they were thinking of dumping because they thought there was a bigger problem than there was. Also, if you have a flip property where you remodel a thing and get ready to put it on the market, think about how a pre-sale or pre-listing inspection can help you out, because often things that your contractors might have done might not be perfect. You want to know what's there. I can help on a pre-listing inspection by explaining what needs to be fixed, and also what might still be big problems that you can disclose, don't have to fix, but you can tell buyers, hey, the price is what it is because of X. So, the way it should work. Purchase a property, right? Do your predetermined set of upgrades, things you want to do with the property. And then you flip or rent the property. Get back and enjoy the money, right? That's how the process works for everybody. Not always. Honey, you're on my fingers. Oh. Sorry. It's from a movie called The Money Pit. For those of you who know, it's a wonderful, fun movie. But yeah, there's a lot of things that can turn a deal that you thought was great great into a money pit. Something like that. I mean, that's an extreme, obviously, but a lot of you guys who've been doing investments for a long time have run into these kind of situations. You buy into a property and you get problems with the foundation, structure, electrical, plumbing, just the whole property itself, where it is, what it is. These can destroy the bottom line. Okay? That's where inspection can really help you out. I'm gonna play a little game here, a little thing called mountain or molehill. All seen block foundations. You got that kind of cracking going on in the foundation. What do you guys think? Is that a mountain or a molehill? Yep, definitely a mountain. You can be looking at, thousands and thousands of dollars in foundation repairs. And depending on the property, sometimes worth doing, but you need to have somebody with an experienced eye to look at that and tell you how big of a deal is it, how easy is it to fix, and is it going to be something worth repairing. Cracking in a concrete foundation like this. What do you think? Mountain or molehill? Molehill. That's rebar cracking. Has nothing to do with the structural issue. It has to do with the fact that rebar was put too close to the edge of the concrete. It rusted, it popped off the surface of the concrete. All you need to do is scrape that off, paint it, and either epoxy inject it or put new mortar over it. But a lot of people will see an issue like that and think it's a huge issue. It's really not. EIFS, exterior insulated finish system. This stuff looks like stucco, but it's really just kind of plaster over styrofoam. You guys seen it on various properties? Yes? Mountain or molehill? What do you guys think? Molehill? Possible mountain. We ran into a property, this is probably about 5 years ago now. Property was brand new construction. Brand new means, 5 years old. Okay, relatively brand new. Got moisture behind the EIFS. It was a $500,000 house. $270,000 in repairs. The problem with EIFS is it's designed to be completely sealed, but if it's not completely sealed, you get water behind it, it can rot out the studs, the sheathing, everything. So EIFS is something you want to definitely have somebody who knows what they're doing, get you an inspection on. If you're doing any kind of house or commercial property with EIFS, get an inspection. Stair step cracking in brick. Mountain or molehill? Generally speaking, molehill. There are exceptions, of course. And again, that's where a good inspection can help you out. To know, are we talking about something where the building is moving or shifting or needs to be piered? Or is it simple minor movement like you see in a lot of city houses that simply need a good tuck pointer to, stabilize it, get it fixed? Generally speaking, it's a molehill, but it can be mountain dependent. Stab lock electrical panel. That's what I mean by stab lock, has that symbol on it. Anybody know about it? It's a mountain or a molehill? Definitely a mountain, because it is one of the most dangerous panels ever designed. And the reason is that, breakers in a panel, they're designed to, when there's too much current, they shut off, right? In over 20% of the cases tested on stab lock panels, they don't trip when they're supposed to. And they've been known for causing fires. There was a massive recall on them and a class action suit against the company. That's why Federal Pacific Electric, that manufactured them, is no longer in business, because that panel killed them. So that's something where we always recommend, if there's a stab lock panel, replace it, because they function fine until they don't, and they cause the house fire. All right. Breaker and fuse sizes, where you got the wrong size wire going onto a given breaker. For example, in this case, you got a 14 gauge wire on a 20 amp breaker. Out in the molehill. Molehill, because while it is a big safety issue, it's a very easy thing to fix. You simply swap out with a 15 amp breaker and you're fine. Okay. So that's where, again, it's one of those things where you have to have somebody experienced that can tell you yes, it's a big issue, but an easy to fix issue. Leaking cast iron. Generally speaking, it's a mountain. Because cast iron rusts from the inside out. So by the time it starts leaking, that means the vast majority of that pipe is rusted out and it's about to crack and blow open. Now, we've seen them last, 100, 150 years, but the average lifespan of cast iron is about 50 or 60 years. And you really don't know there's a problem until it's actually a real big problem. So a kind of fun story. Did a remodeling job for a buddy of mine. This is about 2 years ago now. And I was remodeling a bathroom and I was going to move the toilet, so I needed to do some restructuring. And I, opened up the walls and said, hey, I'm going to replace your cast iron stack. You got a bunch of rust barnacles on here. I'm going to replace it. Which, of course, I've got all the right tools and everything to do that. It's not an easy job to cut cast iron apart. I sent him a text. So, Brian, your cast iron cut like butter. Note, cast iron should not cut like butter. So yeah, cast iron almost always, whenever you have the ability, if you're doing a remodeling job, if there's cast iron pipe in it, replace it. The most expensive part of replacing a cast iron stack is getting to it. So you've got the walls open. If you're doing remodeling, replace any cast iron you find. Flexible drains, we've all kind of seen those, the little accordion type flex drains. Now, of course, that's not the only problem in this picture. This is a definitely non-professional job. But those flex drains, mountain or molehill? It's a molehill. It's a problem because they do collect bacteria. They are problematic and they can be punctured. So I always recommend them being replaced. But it's an easy job. Anybody that's a decent, contractor or plumber can replace that very easily. Low soil near a foundation, mountain or molehill? It's a molehill, but it's an indicator of a much larger problem. The biggest problem with foundations is drainage around the outside. So while it's fairly easy to fix, you can add some dirt, make sure it drains away from the foundation. Almost all foundation problems I come across, not all, but almost all, are related to bad drainage around the house. And it can be, $30,000 foundation damage just because somebody decided that they didn't care about the water draining toward their foundation. So, like I said, fixing it before this problem, molehill. Once it becomes a problem, that's when it's a problem. So, why VPG? VPG, and this is why I joined with them. They're one of the largest home inspection companies, home and commercial inspection companies in the country. By far the largest in the St. Louis area. We did, in the St. Louis area, we did over 9,000 residential and commercial inspections last year. Trained inspectors, professional engineers on staff. So if you do run into a major foundation issue or structural issue you need help with, we also have structural engineers on staff. We can get a structural review for you with PEs that can sign off on those sort of things. So we have the ability to do the inspections and the personnel behind it. Now, when it comes to investment properties, the bottom line is the bottom line. You're not usually emotional about properties. It's a different thing. If I'm doing a residential inspection for somebody buying their first home, they're very emotional about it. You guys as investors, especially the experienced ones in here, there's no emotion in it. Does it make me money or does it not? All right? We can help you correctly assess your ROI on the property. Okay, by inspecting the structure, the critical systems, let you know what's wrong with the property, and let you know where you're running into it before you invest it. As I said, we do residential commercial all types. So single family residential, multifamily residential, that's anything up to 4 units, anything above 4 units would be a commercial inspection. All right. And that's anything from a 5 or 6 unit up to 70, 80, 120 unit complexes. Also do commercial, standalone or multi-unit retail centers, light industrial, office, warehouse, manufacturing plants, as well as schools and churches. Okay, so pretty much anything, any sort of property you're buying. I generally don't do rural farms and that sort of thing. okay, but most any commercial structures and most any residential structures, we'll be able to help you out with. In terms of investment properties, we do the standard full residential inspection, which is a little more expensive, but it's a full inspection. You get the full report that you can use for your negotiations, etc. Commercial full inspection, same concept, full inspection along with a full detailed report on everything. We do representative unit inspection. So if I am doing, say, a 100-unit complex, it could be very expensive to have me and my team go in and inspect every single apartment unit. So very often we come up with a much lower price to do representative units, where we'll do a couple of the 1-bedroom, a couple of the 2-bedroom, a couple of the 3-bedroom, you know, a couple on each side of the building, so that you get a good representation, but you don't have to pay as much as you would to inspect every single unit because they're almost all identical. Okay. We also do residential and commercial walk and talks. So these are useful if you have a situation where you want to know what's going on in the property. You want to know a good structural assessment, accessory systems, but you're not doing any negotiations on this. You've pretty much set a price. You know what you're getting into. You just want to look at your R.O.I. Walk and talk, there is no report, no paperwork of any kind. I go through, I do the exact same inspection, but I just tell you what I'm finding. Okay. So in a full residential inspection, again, full top to bottom of the home, everything from the roof down to the basement, everything in the system. Mechanical system, descriptions, ages, there's pictures and documentation all in the reports, very detailed. And we have lists of action and consideration items, which give you an idea of what things need to be addressed right now versus what things can wait a while. Easy to read and understand reports, that'd be your red and blue items for the action consideration item. So it's very easy to understand reports written in English, and by that I mean it's easy to understand, it's straightforward, there's pictures to everything. Commercial is a similar concept, full inspection, top to bottom, mechanical systems. It's based on the ASTM standards as opposed to the ASHI standards. ASHI stands for the American Society of Home Inspectors, and that's what any good home inspector should be using for doing home inspection for you. Commercial inspections run under the federal ASTM standards, so it's slightly different. Along with the mechanical ages of systems and roofs and structure, also goes into parking availability and options. On commercial inspections, if we do a full inspection, we'll give you costs of the major items, roof, structure, etc., as to what it's going to cost you to repair it. Again, not an exact cost, but an estimate on these things. But just like in the residential, you also do get pictures, documentation, and also the same kind of action consideration on list, so you know what to deal with that time. Representative unit is exactly what I was talking about. We would go through, various specific items, and that's a negotiated thing. You would decide how many items you want to go through. You come up with a price for it if you didn't want to do everything. The walk and talk, as I was saying, it's tailored to the investor. Okay, it's for when you already know what the price is, you just want to know what the condition of the building is, and you would follow along on the inspection. You can take any notes or pictures you want, but I'm not doing any kind of reporting. And I'll give you a verbal review of everything. As I said, basically the same inspection, just no paperwork. Okay. We also do offer additional services in addition to the inspection. So assuming you were wanting it, if it's a more high-end property and you want a more detailed inspection, we have termite available. We have radon testing available. We can do a gas inspection, sewer lateral, and mold inspection. So depending on the property, some of these services you may want, completely optional, of course, but it's available for you directly through us. And of course, we do all the booking. All you need to do is tell us you want it, and we arrange everything, arrange all the scheduling. Okay. Cost-wise, pricing is competitive, value is unbeatable. All right, I will tell you right now, I am not the cheapest inspector in town. You can find cheap inspectors, and if you want to do that, you're welcome to it. But there's a lot of fly-by-night inspections out there. I have done thousands of inspections. I know what I'm doing. There's a lot of value to getting a good inspector, not just somebody who says he's a home inspector. Generally speaking, a full residential inspection start at $350, and that's for any property that's $150K or less. And then it's increased based on price. So if you're doing a $400,000 home, be a little more, okay? There's also a few other add-ons, such as if it's, over 70 years old, there's a little bit of a bump in the fees, it's a little more difficult. A few other items, I think it's an extra $20 for a 2-story house versus a 1. But the basic ranch style bungalow, generally speaking, you'd be looking at about a $350 cost on that. That's for the full inspection, okay? Multifamily would start at $480. Commercial is usually a square footage. Now, the rule of thumb on commercial is ballpark of 10 cents a square foot, but it's a little more than that for smaller properties. It's a little less than that for much larger properties. If you want commercial, you call us and we'll give you, before anything happens, we give you an exact quote on what we're doing and you decide whether that's what you want to do for. All right. If you're doing a group of properties, let's say you're buying 4 or 5 houses, you want them all inspected the same day. Again, call me, we can work out some discounted prices on something like that. All right. So, is it a good value? Here's a few examples of things that I've done. They're just, a couple of minor examples of inspections that I've done for clients. Greenville, Illinois, 45,000 square foot factory. Actually, not a bad price for 45,000 square foot. It's only $750,000. I don't know how many of you guys do commercial, but you realize for that kind of size property, not a bad price. The sellers had done substantial roof repairs in 2020. The inspection on this cost $3,750. You guys might be thinking, wow, that's a chunk of money. All right. That's one of the pictures on the roof. Doesn't look bad, right? Another picture of the roof, a little worse section, but you can see it's patched, right? Not bad. The reality of it, that was a horrible roof. They had patched areas they shouldn't have, and they destroyed other areas in the process. Complete replacement of that roof was going to be somewhere between $600,000 and $750,000. So the fact that they paid me nearly $4,000 to go in and do this inspection saved them a huge amount of money. Because now they have a very solid negotiation point on, reducing that price. Because they were told the roof was fine. No, that roof is not fine. Here's another one. Little, ranch bungalow. I think this was in Wentzville. Nice little property. Had been completely rehabbed. Looked nice. The investor was buying it as, the intention was, oh, I'm just going to use this as a rental. Okay. Purchase price was $130,000. Fairly high for that, but it's all fixed up already, right? Inspection on that, I think, was $395. In the basement, block foundation. Those are what they call stiff backs, which they use to, shore up a moving foundation. But do you notice that they're all bowed? They were straight when they put them in. Now look at the center support structure in there. Do you notice a little bit of an angle in those center supports? Yeah. They didn't fix the drainage around the outside. Remember I told you earlier, drainage is a huge issue? That entire house was being shoved back and the entire foundation being racked. Yeah, I told that inspector to run away because there was no fixing that problem. That house was going to have to be demolished. Because the only way to fix it would be to jack it up, blow away the foundation, redo the entire foundation and put it back. And that house wasn't worth doing that. Another example, this is a little bit more high-end property, rehab property. They knew it needed a lot of work. So a little higher end residential. The investor purchase price on this was $300,000. Okay, as a distressed property. And again, he was going to fix it up, either rent it or flip it. Inspection price on that, I believe, is $495. The roof, which from the street looked good, was trashed. It was at least 23 years old. It's hard to see in this picture, but tons of granule loss. The roof was just done. Okay, so it needed a new roof urgently. This had it wasn't vinyl siding, it was hardboard siding, which basically is pressboard. I don't know how many of you have run across hardboard siding. Not bad if you keep it well sealed and well painted. But any of us who've ever had pressboard furniture and it gets wet, swells up and just turns into sawdust, right? All of the siding and all of the trim on this house was completely destroyed. And there was water damage behind it. So it's going to have to pull all that off, redo the sheathing, redo all the siding and trim. And you guys have all run into broken thermal seals, right? Generally not a huge issue unless you have more than 15 of them in the house. And I mean 15 windows, so more than 30 panes. So we're talking about new roof, all new siding and sheathing, all new windows. That $495 you paid me netted him over $30,000 in the price reduction that he wouldn't have gotten without the inspection. So that's pretty much all I have as far as that, but I want to know, are there any questions? I kind of went through a bunch of stuff and I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have. Yes.
I'm out.
Eves.
Hold on.
It's EIFS and it stands for Engineered Insulated Finish System. Some people call it EIFS, some people call it EIFS. And it looks like stucco, but what it actually is hard, a solid core styrofoam insulating board that they wrap that property in, and then they run a plaster over the top of it, and it looks like stucco. It looks really, really nice, and it's not a bad system if it's kept completely sealed. As soon as you get water behind it, it destroys the property. Any other questions on any of the topics I covered? Yes. Yes.
Landscape drainage, do you inspect the yard for that sort of thing as part of it?
I inspect the property with respect to how it would affect the structure. Okay, so I will check for drainage along driveways, drainage toward the foundation, things like that. I'm not going to inspect for whether there's a little sinkhole in the backyard or anything like that. Okay, the items that are going to affect the main structure of the property, and that includes a detached garage as well. But yeah, things that affect the property and drainage of that, I inspect. But in terms of if there's erosion at the back of the property causing a little creek, no, that would not be.
On the issue of the stair stepping on the brick,
Yes.
if you're starting to see protrusion where are bowing on that brick, that
Yes.
would be the mountain, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
When you see cracking in brick, it can be something simple as minor movement, minor settling. You'll see it on brick facing if you have lintels, which are the steel piece above windows and doors that rust, they expand on top of the brick. But if you're looking at a city property where, like you said, you have differential settlement or movement of that, or you have bowing out of that brick where the outer wide of the brick wide means the layer of brick. That will cause a major problem. It can be big money. So yeah, whenever I'm doing a city property inspection, especially when I'm on the roof, and I do walk every roof that I can, I will look along the sides of the building to find out, is there bowing, is there movement? Because as I said, the stair step cracking normally, it's a minor problem, can be a very large problem. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so as investors, a lot of times the ideal properties when we're shopping go really quick. Like, I was looking at this property I was interested in, and it didn't surprise me, it sold within 48 hours. And so the first question when I saw the property was, of course, I'd want to get it inspected before I make a bid on it. And so one of the key competitive questions would be how quickly when your company is contacted, what is the turnaround time for an inspection? Because do you guys have to, or obviously coordinate with, you know, whoever can get the lockbox open, or do you guys have your own people for that, or?
Well, we contact the agents, or if it's an individual, we contact the individual, make arrangements for access, whether it's on Supra, we have Supra access, or if it's on a lockbox, or if a seller is going to be there, if it's an occupied property. So yeah, we'll make arrangements for that. Generally speaking, I can usually get into an inspection within a day or two. There are exceptions to that. If I'm extremely busy, then, you know, or if all our inspectors are incredibly busy, then it may take a few days, but generally speaking, within a day or two, we can get an inspection in. And as far as turnaround on the report, if it's a full inspection with the report, generally speaking, you will get the report the next day. Obviously, if it's a walk and talk, then you get the information right away, you know, while you're there. But yeah, generally speaking, within a day or two, we can usually get the inspection.
I have a question. How often do sellers, because you mentioned seller sitting inspections, how often do you see sellers actually doing that? I mean, as buyers, we do it all the time, but.
It's less common than it really should be, because every time I've done a pre-listing inspection, it's really helped out on the seller side because it takes all the ammunition away. So in other words, if, you know, I go through as an inspection, and this is true on investment properties or a retail sale property, you know, I go through the inspection, it's basically the same full inspection, and I'll point out the little things, you know, outlets and you know, misaligned windows or, you know, the minor stuff, and say, yeah, fix all that. And if I find a bad roof, or if I find something in the structure, or, you know, leaks in the basement, then I'll tell them, it's like, disclose that. Say, you have this, you have this, you have this, the price is what it is because of these items. And it takes all the wind out of the sales on negotiation at the back end, because when they say, well, I want you to take 10,000 off because you have a bad roof, it's like, I told you I had a bad roof, you knew that going in. So yeah, it's a very valuable thing, and again, you're talking a few $100s, and it can save you 10 grand on the back end negotiation. But honestly, yeah, I do many more you know, inspections for buyers than I do for sellers. Any other questions? Either on the inspections or on systems? Yes.
On that example where you have, I think it's $150,000 house.
Mhm.
And the assessment price is over 95.
Yeah, that one was a little higher. I believe it was because there's an HB on it. It was a, you know, 100-year-old house. So
What would be the walk-in talk?
generally speaking, depending on it depends on the house. Usually the walk-in talks are around $200 to $250. You know, ranch should be around $200. If it's a 2-story house where I have to get my, you know, fixture from that out, probably $250. Yes, my contact information. My name is Pete Klarmann. Last name is Klarmann. My phone number, I'll give you my direct cell phone number. That's the easiest way to connect with me. 314-477-5552. And I have a bunch of cards in my pocket. So if anybody wants a card, you're welcome to it.
I got a quickie question for you here.
Yes.
Hi, there you go. How do I get rid of a woodpecker?
Well, it depends on how good of a shot you are. No, critters can be a problem, whether you're talking about woodpeckers, squirrels,
Right.
carpenter bees. Honestly, I'm not the best one on that. Now, woodpeckers generally don't like painted surfaces. So if you have, and vinyl, of course, but if you have open wood, if it's painted and well sealed, they generally don't go after it. It's usually when there's cracks or whatever, or holes in it, because what they're doing is they're not just pecking on it to make noise, which they do, but they're looking for insects.
Good point.
They're going for food.
Might
So,
have insects in the house. So,
yeah. And it's the same thing with carpenter bees. Carpenter bees usually attack unpainted wood surfaces. Have you guys ever seen carpenter bees? The little perfectly drilled 3/8-inch hole. And the funny thing is, carpenter bees don't actually do a ton of damage to the wood unless there's a lot of them. But they actually make a large tunnel. It's not just that hole. They go in with a hole and make a right angle turn and bore a long tunnel that they then, lay larvae in. Okay, it's basically their nest. Woodpeckers love going after that wood because they're going in to get after that. So anytime you see carpenter bee channels that are opened, it's not that the bees opened them, it's that woodpeckers or other, critters went in to get at the kids.
Thank you, appreciate it. Come by next week, please.
Any other questions at all? Yes, sir.
He's underneath the speaker.
Oh.
That's cool. And going back to our light came or the plumbing,
Yes.
would your company assist electrician or plumber to come out, or would we have to find an electrician or the plumber? on
Yeah,
our
no,
own?
we don't, we specifically don't provide any sort of contractors.
Okay.
The reason is because, and that's also why, I have done a lot of contracting work in my time. I will not touch a property that I've inspected in the last 3 years. And the reason is conflict of interest. I want you guys to feel completely comfortable that if I'm coming out and doing an inspection on that property, I'm giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly, having nothing to do with any financial interest on my part. Okay, so we specifically don't give any bids. In fact, the subcontractors that we do use for like the gas inspections, for the sewer lateral inspections, they are also not allowed to give you a bid on site as to what it would cost to repair it. Because we don't want them selling their services during the inspection. Now, the contractors we use are excellent, and you are more than welcome to call them up and ask them to come back and give you a bid. But as part of the inspection, no, we specifically won't give you any kind of information on how to, get a contractor to fix it, because we don't want you to think that we're selling any of those kind of services.
I should have worn my.
It's your weekly exercise,
Example. My question is, if you ordered a walk and talk and you went through it and it's like, oh my God, they found something horrible that you didn't expect. Could you turn around and then do a written report for the extra money?
That is where the problem with the walk dog comes in. The answer is no. And the reason is, when I'm doing a full inspection, I'm taking thorough notes, I'm taking tons of pictures. And of course, then I'm writing a long report. That's why it's, double the price or more. If I'm doing the walk and talk, the reason it's cheaper is because I can go through a little quicker. I'm not stopping to write notes. I'm not, going into all that detail. So the end result though is, if you say, oh, I need the full inspection, sorry, I kind of need to redo it. And that's why I only recommend the walk and talks, and I do recommend it to investors, but only on properties where it's a low enough value property where you already know that there's going to be some items and you want to know what they are, but it's not going to change the price. There's not going to be a negotiation on it. Or if there is, you're not worried about any paperwork to back it up. If you're doing a property, like for example, that $300,000 property, there can be major money there. It's worth a little few extra dollars to get that full inspection and full report. The other time I definitely recommend investors do a full report is if you're an out-of-town investor. Some of the Zoom guys, I do a lot of inspections for folks that are in Israel or Africa or India. They always do the full report because they're not there at the inspection. And so they always get a full report from me because that's the value for them because they're not in this country. So like I said, both have a real value to them. The walk down are great, but if you think you are going to want a full report, go ahead and do the full inspection. What else? Honestly, if you already own the property, unless there's some reason why you need paperwork, I would do a walkdown. Because you already own it. There's no financial benefit to having the paperwork on it, unless of course you want it. Like I said, it really depends on the value of the property. Because if we're talking about a property and it's, $40,000 and you just want to fix it up and flip it or whatever you're doing, then, why spend a couple of $100 extra dollars? You don't need to. If we're talking about a $200,000 property And it's going to be a lot more money involved, and then when you flip it, it's kind of helpful to show somebody, hey, I had an inspection, these are what we found, this is what I fixed. Then it can be worthwhile doing that, but yeah, generally speaking, if you already own it and you're just looking for help on what needs to be done, the walk and talk is better value. I'm happy to do full inspections, I make more money on them, but that being said, that's why we do walk talks for investors, because very often you don't want to spend any extra money. I'm a cheapskate. I'll tell you right now, I'm a cheapskate. I'm not spending it down, I don't have to. But I'll tell you right now, inspections are a very good value. But that's why we do walk talks inspections, because there are, for investors, because there are times when you don't need the report. You don't need all that. You just want the information. That's where we walk talks really help.
I have two questions. The first one is the cost for a condo any different than a single family?
Generally speaking, not for the base price. Because it depends on the condo we're looking at. The condo generally takes exactly the same amount of time and effort that a full home does, because if it's a townhome, for example, I'm looking at the roof, I'm looking at the exterior, I'm looking at every system. So generally speaking, it's about the same price. Now, on a walk and talk, depending on the condo, sometimes it can be a little less, because as a walk and talk, if you don't want me to walk the roof, I don't need to, and I can discount a little bit for that, etc. So, and it also depends on the condo. I've done condos that are, 700 square feet. I've also done condos that are 4,000 square feet. So it depends on the condo.
And the other question is about bees. And I've seen where the bees, they leave these big orange, it almost looks like foam on the, I don't know whether I thought that was from the bees.
Well, very often, if you're seeing what looks like orange foam, it's that spray foam, which degrades over time and then looks like this weird orange.
Now,
stuff.
these are solid wood fences.
Oh, fences with foam.
I mean,
Well, what looks like-
I thought that it was some kind of a deposit from the bees, but it's these great big bees. I was told they were carpenter bees. But I don't see
Well,
cards, I
carpenter
see
bees,
this.
no, carpenter bees don't leave, what we'll see from carpenter bees is, for example, where you see the hole, and it's almost always on the underside, if you're up. And then you will sometimes see almost a fan shape, of debris, and it's basically what they're spitting out. But yeah, you won't see any kind of, structure, because they're all inside the wood. The other thing you'll know if you have carpenter bees, by the way, is if you ever see a bee, looks like a big bumblebee, just kind of hovering around your house, that's a guard. Anytime there are carpenter bees, when there's the bee inside there with the babies, usually it's the male, I believe, is standing guard and keeping woodpeckers and other bees away. So if you ever see this bee just kind of hovering up by your eaves, it usually means you got carpenter bees up in there. But as far as the foam, I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not an expert on that. I just don't know the answer. If you send me a picture, get my card, have my contact information, send me a picture. If I can find some information, I'll be happy to fill in.
Just a real quick question, when do you really strongly recommend radon testing?
I do, and the reason is, radon, what a lot of people don't realize is, radon gas, it's completely odorless, tasteless, you can't see it, smell it. Now, what people don't realize is natural gas and propane also are odorless and tasteless and so on. The reason that you have a horrible smell from natural gas is they put that smell in there to make it offensive, so you know if there's a leak. Radon gas is the second leading cause of lung cancer on the planet. And I've heard some people argue, well, I don't need it in Maryland Heights because there's not a lot of radon in Maryland. Radon gas is a byproduct of uranium decay in the crust of the earth. And I'll tell you a quick story on it if we have some time. So they always knew that there was a problem. They used to call it miner's death. Back in the 1700s, 1800s, miners were dying. Didn't know why. Over time, they learned about, black lung disease. They learned about the various gases that they would use canaries to check for, but these miners are still dying. Fast forward to 1984. there was a nuclear power plant being built. No uranium there yet, they're just building the plant. But they were getting close to finishing, and the construction workers all used the exit doors as the construction entrance. The electricians had just put in all the radiation detectors, you know, so that they would check to see if anybody had left the plant irradiated in any way from uranium. So this guy, I always forget his last name, it's Stan something or other, comes to work one day, sets off all the alarms. Like, how? There's no uranium, how are you getting irradiated? Well, they tracked it back to his house. It turns out he had very, very high levels of radon gas. And it actually was enough to irradiate him. Now, of course, he ended up dying from lung cancer. But once they figured that out, they now went, okay, now we know what we're looking for. And they did a worldwide scan all around the planet, various areas, to check for radon gas levels. It turns out that Missouri is on, it kind of looks like the jet stream in a way, but we are on the lower edge of one of the highest bands on the planet. Generally speaking, the action level for radon gas is a 4. I can go into the details on it if you want. It's a microperiod per liter. It's a radiation level. But when you have above a level of a 4, you need to put in a radon mitigation system. They say under a 4, you don't have to worry about it. When we say high levels in St. Louis, they're usually 6, 10, 20. We have seen a 209. So there are, in fact, I did an inspection, there's a commercial inspection on, it's out in Lake St. Louis, on a daycare center. And it scared me in a way because they had the older kids upstairs and they had the younger infants in the finished basement walkout area downstairs. We tested radon on there, level of 27.2. Like, you're trying to kill these kids. Now, the nice thing is radon is completely fixable. You don't eliminate it, but what they do is they put in a system. It looks fairly simple, really. It's kind of a fan that puts negative pressure under the slab and sucks the radon gas and deposits it above the house. So it doesn't eliminate it, but it bypasses the home and makes it safe. So yes, I strongly recommend radon testing. Now, I recommend it on the house you're buying for yourself. I strongly recommend it on any single family or multi-family home you're doing. And here's why. I know it's not your property in terms of you're not living there. But if you test it and it comes back high, you put in a radon mitigation system, you've done your due diligence, you've taken care of it. If it comes back low, keep that paper in your files. As we all know, people are litigious. And somebody comes down with lung cancer, they're suing everybody. You pull that piece of paper out and say, I tested it. I did my due diligence, don't blame me because I tested it. So on properties like that, especially multi-families, I definitely recommend getting it tested. I also recommend on any kind of condo that's second floor or below. Third floor or above, it's usually not an issue. It's dissipated enough by then, it's not a problem. But second floor, first floor, basement condos, I recommend doing radon testing. Oh, definitely, almost, yeah. And it's not expensive. We charge, I think, $160 for doing the radon test. It's, it's a small chunk, but it's not inexpensive. Oh, you can, sure, yeah. Yeah, you can call us up and we can arrange radon test for you. Yep. By the way, just so you know, there are radon tests that you can buy at like Home Depot or whatever. It's a charcoal test. I view those, and forgive me about this, but I view them like a pregnancy test. If you take a pregnancy test and you get an answer, you don't trust that. You go to the doctor, right? Those little at-home radon tests, they are not nearly accurate enough. So if you're doing any kind of a real estate transaction, get the actual radon test. By the way, I am certified termite licensed, so if I'm doing termite inspections, I would do that myself as well. Other questions, anything? And also, if you have questions about systems or roofs or whatever, ask me. Happy to answer. Generally speaking, it's on the data tag, which is basically the label. Normally on most furnaces, and there are exceptions, of course, but normally if you take off the main front access panel, not the one by the fan, but the upper one, it's usually down at the bottom or on one of the sides. And the difficulty here is when you buy a new furnace, it'll tell you the age. It'll say manufactured date, 02/21. Older furnaces, they love to hide it. They will put it as a number in the serial number or a letter in the serial number if you have to know the chart to look up to find out what date it is. But normally you can go online and decipher that. I have tools to access it, so it's very easy for me, but I mean, it depends on the manufacturer. For example, if you look at Goodman, it's almost always the first two digits of the serial number is the year. York or Lennox, they have 27 different styles of serial number with 27 different styles of find out what it is, and half of them are letters. So it's not always easy to decipher it, but it's always there. Another thing you can use is, especially on furnaces and water heaters, and also air conditioners, there is an ANSI date, and that's the code to which the furnace or air conditioner or water heater were built. And those codes generally change every 3 years. So if you see, ANSI date code, blah, 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 1999, then you know that unit is probably somewhere between 1999 and, 2003 or so. So you can at least get close with that if you can't find it otherwise. Anyone else? Yes.
What, advice would you offer on the house something?
We do actually offer septic inspections. I don't personally do them. We have our guys that do that. Because I generally don't do a lot of the inspections that far out. I can, but I usually don't. Although, to be honest, there are some septic, if you go, where Manchester Road splits in, De Pere, right at 270? There's a bunch of that are now commercial, but they were residences. They're all on septic. Right there, 270. But yeah, so we offer septic inspections. I definitely recommend getting a septic inspection. It can be very expensive to repair a septic system. I think our price on a septic inspection is $300 plus or minus, right in there. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I definitely recommend doing a septic inspection. That's a separate inspection, but we can, if you book an inspection and say you want septic, we can arrange that at the same time. Yep. Else? All right, well, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Everybody want to call who's coming at?
All right, thank you. So that concludes our meeting for tonight. You are welcome to stay and talk, but look forward to seeing you all in January. Yes, the meeting will be here and I assume still on Zoom in January. Yes.